Okay. This we have read before,
split.
but we're reading again because there's a new update for it. The title was "Am I the Astronaut for Giving Crappy Christmas Gifts and Ruining My Marriage?" Originally posted January 28th, 2025. It's a freshen. I, 31 female, married my soon-to-be ex-husband, male 33, in 2018. My in-laws never liked me and made it clear. Soon-to-be ex insisted that they're just putting up a tough exterior and they'll grow to love me. To show how evil they are, one time I joined them for dinner and brought a cake that I had made, because I was always raised to be a gracious guest. When I stepped into the kitchen and offered the cake to his mother as a thank you for inviting me, she took the plate over to the garbage bin, dumped it in, and handed me the plate back. When I told my husband what she did, he confronted her, and all of a sudden the crocodile tears started, and she claimed she grabbed the plate but didn't get a good grip. I let go too quickly. It fell to the floor, so of course it had to be thrown away. My sister-in-law confirmed that was what happened.
I think I'm still in shock by the fact that she threw a cake in the
garbage.
garbage.
Perfectly good cake.
Yeah.
Threw it away. Strike 12. My soon-to-be ex owned his own business, and they called me a gold digger behind his back. Of course, they insisted on a prenup, which I didn't care about because I never thought my marriage would end and it would appease them and may allow them to finally treat me kindly. Nope. His business failed once COVID hit. We went through his savings and my own to keep it afloat. I refused to go down in debt to keep it going, so we closed it down. In 2022, he was suffering from really bad depression because he lost his business and couldn't find new work. He suggested we move to his hometown, closer to his family, so we had a larger support network. Against my best judgment, we did. He wanted to only work part-time while he tried to restart this business, so I became the main breadwinner. And as with most wives, I became the person in charge of buying gifts. Stupid old me thought buying them thoughtful, expensive gifts would finally make them see that I wanted to be accepted by them. Gifts to us were a couple's gift, but clearly for my soon-to-be ex only. Every holiday was spent with them. Monthly dinners with the whole family. After a year, I realized that if I ever tried to talk or join a conversation, everyone would go quiet. So I just stopped talking when I visited. In early December, they finalized plans for Christmas. A few days later, my soon-to-be ex said that his family decided they didn't want me to join them for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas lunch because I ruined the family vibe. I replied, fine, we'll do our own thing instead. My soon-to-be ex sheepishly looked away and said he was still going.
Of course he did.
I was livid and so disappointed in him. That was the moment I knew my marriage was over. So I returned the presents I had bought for his family. In their place, I got one pair of novelty business socks for father-in-law, a supermarket brand bottle of shampoo for mother-in-law, the nastiest perfume I could find at the dollar store for sister-in-law. The most expensive gift was a large rawhide bone for brother-in-law and his wife's chihuahua. Too big for it to get its jaw around, rendering it useless. I saved about $600 to put on a deposit for a new apartment. My husband came home from Christmas lunch telling me I humiliated him and embarrassed him in front of his family. I asked him why would he think that I'd buy nice gifts for people who clearly don't like me and don't want me around. Served divorce papers last week. Remember how he was supposed to be a millionaire by now, so we had a prenup? Soon-to-be ex is not eligible for any of my savings. It was required to keep separate accounts or alimony. He doesn't have money for rent and auto insurance. Not my problem anymore. Some of my friends and family and on my side are proud that I went out in a blaze of glory. Others are telling me I was being way too petty, which really isn't like me. So, am I the astronaut?
The one saying that you were too petty, don't listen to him. You were the perfect petty.
Unless they've been in the exact same situation that you've been in, their opinion doesn't mean shit.
Having an entire family say you ruined the vibe because they refuse to have conversations with you is nasty. That's gross behavior. Ugh.
Yeah. It's like she married into the Malfoy family. Filthy mudblood. Here is the update. I'm skipping the comments from the last one and just diving straight to the update, which was 9 days later, February 6th, 2025. Many thanks to everybody for their support in my last post. I thought I'd send a small update. First, those of you who asked how the deposit on my new apartment was only the $600 I had saved on gifts, it certainly wasn't. I had to dip into savings, but that $600 helped. My soon-to-be ex didn't bother reaching out to me after I left until he was served the divorce papers, and my lawyer made it clear we're exercising the prenup. Then it was loving voicemails and texts I never picked up from him and his family for a few days, trying to convince me to come back, which eventually turned to threatening and cruel voicemails and texts when it was clear I wasn't budging. My lawyer suggested I don't block them so we have evidence of harassment if needed. But then last night, I got call after call from my soon-to-be ex. Stupidly, I picked it up thinking there was some kind of emergency or something. I barely got hello out when he said, "The rent is a week late." I told him that's strange because I paid my landlord 6 days ago. He paused and sighed dramatically and replied, no, the rent for here. I reminded him that I don't live there and he shouldn't expect rent. Cue his parents both texting me that they're going to sue me to pay the remainder of the lease entirely. I'm not worried about having an eviction on my record since the apartment is in his parents' names. When we first announced we were moving into his hometown, they rented an apartment for us right away so we could move in. They've been renewing the lease each year. We had to pay his parents, and then they write a check to the landlord, who has no idea who soon-to-be ex and I are, let alone that we lived there. Red flag, I know. I'm glad I had a few weeks to prep my leaving since they'd probably use the fact that it's their apartment to kick me out immediately. Divorce is probably going to be a bumpy ride with this man-child and his psycho parents. Any advice from anyone who's been through it is welcome. Comments by OP here. Lawyer is confident they have no leg to stand on. I haven't signed any type of lease and utilities are in their name too because they were afraid of having too many names connected to the apartment and the landlord finding out. So they're on the hook for everything that doesn't get paid. But hey, that was their choice and they're scheming. FAFO.
So was it about control to have it in their name, I guess? I don't know.
Maybe, or maybe they were just being coddling to him. Clearly weren't doing her any favors.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Ay. So glad she got out of there. Now change her number and disappear. Yeah,
right.
That's a good idea. Here's update 2. About 19 days later, February 19th. Hi, if this isn't the right place to post any updates, please direct me to a subreddit that better fits. Super sorry if I'm annoying members who aren't interested, but a few requested an update. First post, my husband's family uninvited me from Christmas. Husband still left and made me celebrate Christmas alone. I organized shitty gifts as a final bird flip. First update, I moved out and my underemployed soon-to-be ex and his family still expected me to pay rent on the apartment in my in-laws' names. So the people who commented that my soon-to-be former in-laws were probably charging my soon-to-be ex and me more than the amount on the lease, you called it, and we wouldn't have found out if they weren't so entitled and determined to hurt me. They got a cousin who happens to be a lawyer to send me a letter demanding I pay the entirety of the remainder of the lease or they will file suit and force me to pay it, clearly a scare tactic. So my lawyer sent a formal request to their lawyer for a copy of the lease, which I've never seen, and a copy of the written agreement with us as sublessees. They sent the lease and insisted the sublease agreement was a verbal contract. Not only is subleasing explicitly prohibited, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law had been charging us an extra $200 each month. So we've notified the landlord that I've been living there with my soon-to-be ex and the lessees were living in their own house throughout the duration of the lease and sent copies of my driver's license with the address and over 2 years of bank and credit card statements with the address listed. They were served with a 30-day eviction yesterday, which I know about because mother-in-law left me a voicemail about me kicking my soon-to-be ex out of his home and that she now drives with a baseball bat in her car and she'll be keeping an eye out for me. LOL. Obviously, my lawyer's expertise is family law and this was out of her purview, so she referred me to a colleague who focuses on real estate law. We met today to devise a battle plan and I'm now suing my mother-in-law and father-in-law for all the money I can prove I transferred for rent for the entirety of the residency there. Since the apartment was technically not a legal apartment to rent, since they couldn't sublease, no clean hands to rent to us, and then sue me, he's not sure how a judge will buy it, and it's way beyond my state's civil compensation limit, but he's confident that it will scare them and leave them open to settling for just returning the additional $200 from each payment. Which I think is fair because I did live there with my soon-to-be ex, so I don't think it's right to get all the rent money back. I'm an adult and adults pay rent. I don't want them to have the satisfaction of saying I'm using the divorce as a windfall. On the soon-to-be ex front, there's no news there. We will likely need to go to family court for a separation order since he won't agree to the financial details of the separation agreement my lawyer has drafted. My state requires a 1-year separation period before a divorce can be finalized, so this is going to be a long process. Time out, quick drink. 1 year, how do you feel about the 1 year required separation process?
I was gonna ask chat what they thought about that as well. The 1 year that you have to be separated for 1 year before you can legally ask for a divorce or before it can be finalized.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I understand why they're doing it, but I wonder how that statistically, like, has it helped or hurt?
I understand. It feels like an old thing to me.
It's the old gods. It's the ways of the old gods. And the new.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw North Carolina in a different Reddit post was that way. But it does feel like I don't know. I feel like if you're done, you're done. And I don't think a year is going to change that. And making people do that just feels like I don't know. I don't like it.
It almost feels like
Yeah, exactly, Bay Fox. That can be very dangerous in DV situations. That was in my head too. It just feels wrong.
It feels like government stepping into a religious role.
I wasn't gonna say that, but yes,
it does.
It feels like an overstep.
Here's the rest of that update. A few people asked why he did what he did and if he's offered any kind of explanation or justification. We haven't really talked since he was served. I don't know if he just fell out of love, but I was still financially convenient, or if the mask finally lifted, or if it was being so close to his family and them having opportunities to manipulate him. I don't know, and I don't care. I don't need closure. I need them all gone. Looking back, making promises during couples counseling, and slowly regressing back is enough closure. Knowing he allowed his family to treat me like crap for so long is closure. That final betrayal at Christmas is closure. My focus isn't on figuring it out. It's making sure I'm happy. Comments by OP. I'm saving them all, voicemails, texts, emails, etc. Honestly, I feel like a new person. I feel like someone who's been ill and finally able to go outside and breathe fresh air. About getting a restraining order or protective order? Absolutely. She's going to regret it because she works for the school district and a restraining order won't let her teach.
Oh my gosh. So the woman saying,
I'm driving around with a baseball bat and I will be looking for you.
Does she bring it into her classroom?
I don't know. Oh
my gosh. She says, why are these teachers? That one guy was a teacher too last week.
She heard some tough guy say that in 1930. And then she's like, I'm gonna hang on to that line someday. I'm driving around with a baseball bat looking for you. About the prenup. It was set up in his favor because he owned a business that was supposed to be a huge success. COVID hit and it went poof. Now I'm the one with the money and the prenup is actually protecting me. Comment.
Serendipity.
Don't forget to investigate suing for return of money invested in his business. It was premarital asset and exempt from prenup. Worth a shot to see if you can recover some/all of that wasted savings. OP, I had never thought of this. I'll bring it up when I meet with my lawyer next. When we first told his family we were moving back to his hometown, his parents went ahead and signed a lease for us to make the move easier. Personally, I think it was to make the move happen sooner and have control. They were worried about too many names attached to the apartment, so power, internet, etc. is also in their name. Damn.
Interesting. I understand. So they went ahead and put the deposit down and got the lease set up so that the move would definitely happen, like to control. And it just backfired.
That's bonkers.
Yeah.
At least that's interesting. So a contested divorce in some states is a longer cool down period. If not, it is 6 months.
Wow. Unless you're unless your ex keeps filing for an extension.
Contested is 6 months. Oh, okay. So uncontested is instantly. Gotcha. Well, I guess that's handy, but man, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. It's messy. It's messy. Beer today seems like the need for control bit them in the ass.
Okay, so what'd you think of the update? It sounds like she has a good attorney.
It does sound like she's got a good attorney, especially one who can say, okay, we've reached an area that is not in my expertise. Here's a colleague of mine that does know it. I think that's what a good attorney does instead of going to battle in an area that they don't understand.
Yes.
I do think that hopefully she has a case for the money she invested in the business. I don't know. She's going to sue him for that or in-laws. I don't know. But
I love that. I love that the prenup worked in her favor.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
That it was just serendipity, like serendipitous that it just worked out for her and not for him when they used it to try to protect him because his business was going to be so successful. The fact that they did all of this, said all of this, like, was he just coddled? Like,
it sure as hell seems like it.
Yeah.
Well, and when it didn't
her blue-eyed wonder boy.
When it didn't go the way that he wanted, he was having trouble finding work. And then when he came back, only wanted to work part-time so he could try getting his thing back up off the ground. So he wasn't willing to do I'm going to do what I got to do and then side hustle this thing to spool it back up, he wanted to move close to mommy and daddy so that they could help him
Right.
be able to do what he wanted to do. And that's, I mean, all signs are red flags there. Now looking back, Opie knows that, but I'm glad it worked out in her favor.
Right.
At least she is getting a clean-ish start.
Mama's bebe.
Hopefully she can get made close to whole, but she's getting out. And I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad she said it was like fresh air.
Yeah.
I'm glad that she
Yeah,
that
that's
she
amazing.
got that.
She's got closure.